This figure shows the 1877 channel in green overlaid on top of a 2008 aerial. Again, the Jimtown Bridge is in the right side of the photo. You can see that the river is wider in a different place and with the islands in 1877. So in this location, the channel had existed across the entire valley floor in many different locations and shifted and meandered back and forth to form the soils that agriculture now depends on. So you can see it's quite a bit wider, which indicates a different type of sediment transportability. This shows the 2008 channel now with a narrow, deep channel, high gravel bars, and areas of dense vegetation growth. This reach has a very tight area for moving bedload of the coarse sediment during a large flood, and it also exists down in the backwater area because just downstream of the Jimtown Bridge is where the constriction of the end of the Alexander Valley occurs. This means that more sediment can come in than can leave this area, and this is the area of deposition. The gravel bars have increased substantially in an area, forming a bedload constriction at where the arrows are indicated. This means that the channel has lost over 75% of its original capacity from the early 1990s. So if there was a flood of the size of the 1995 flood, it would not be able to move the coarse sediment load through this reach. So if this becomes a constriction and fills, it'll force water over bank. The next diagram shows what will happen in the case of a large flood occurring, such as the 1995 flood. As the flood rises and the sediment load increases, the constricted channel becomes plugged. Water finds a path over the overbank area to the west. This is rapidly flowing water, which then strips the soil off the land and lowers the elevation to meet the grade of the river. Gravel then is backfilled in, and when all said and done, the next morning one could wake up after a peak flood and not see the vineyards that were there prior to the flood event. After the flood, the area of overflow becomes a wide open gravel bar. The soils have been completely stripped along with the vineyards, and since the soil is gone, this area is not recoverable to agriculture unless soil is imported and the river is rechannelized. But this shows the characteristic of the river and its natural tendency given the water and sediment load coming in from upstream, which is something that nature provides and cannot be controlled by humans. So we have a big dilemma. This channel is not stable. Another problem with channel filling with sediment is an increase in the bar height and a change from alternate bar and straight pattern to a meandering and high point bars. This has driven a lot of lateral erosion. This sequence shows the map of 1877 as the start near the Geyserville Bridge, which is shown on the right of the map. The tight lines are the riverbed, and again the islands are poking out, indicating an overabundance of sediment compared to the ability of the river to move the sediment supply. This diagram shows the 1877 flood in green overlaid on top of a 2008 aerial photograph. You can see the dramatic changes in the width of the channel. The channel is far narrower, mostly due to agriculture and the Geyserville Bridge. But also, the islands are missing. But you can see large bars and a beginning of braiding by the increase in sinuosity, and actually a point on the left of the aerial photograph where the channel is now turning uphill against the gradient of the valley. This shows the present configuration, or at least in 2008, of the river at the time the photograph was taken in the spring. There's been a lot of lateral erosion since then down near the Geyserville Bridge and the next two bars upstream. The next sequence shows a projection of current conditions in 2008 with trends of meandering, the meandering process that's continuing to progress and evolve, and the potential loss of agricultural land around the river corridor. This diagram shows a 2008 photograph with projected changes in lateral erosion if trends continue with large bar buildup and lateral erosion by point bar formation. You can see agricultural land is lost, mature riparian vegetation is lost, and bridges and infrastructures are threatened. Actually, down near bar 9 at the right side of the photo, the Geyserville Bridge, erosion has progressed to the point shown on the diagram and riprap has been installed. This is the west bank that's eroded in 2010, showing the progress of erosion just in very small floods, less than 2-year recurrence. Caltrans has had to come in and install riprap, actually riprap that's designed to launch into the channel as erosion proceeds. This area has eroded up to 200 feet laterally, while the inside bar, shown on the left of the photograph, has built considerably. This is the future of the Russian River if the gravel bars are not managed and if something isn't done about eroding banks. This photograph, taken earlier at the same site, shows just how much erosion has occurred. All the green area and vineyard in the foreground has been completely eroded, as an eddy formed at the point of the rock shown in the middle of the photograph. This solution, quote unquote, is short term. It's very costly, and it's very destructive in terms of habitat. So, gravel bar skimming provides a solution whereby we can reduce the hydraulic force against the bank and avoid these types of repairs, which are expensive and destructive. This is a different view of the same rock repair upstream of the Geyserville Bridge. It shows how destructive this practice can be and also how expensive it can be, but it'll be something that many landowners in the valley will be facing if erosion is left unchecked as a result of channel filling and bars becoming high point bars. This will be the same situation many will face to protect their land against erosion, vineyards, and homes, as well as infrastructure. Obviously, a longer-term solution is needed. So we've now seen the history of channel aggradation or sediment filling and the trends toward a more meandering, erosive stream and one that fills and avulses and takes over the whole valley floor. The width and pattern of the river is out of sync with the natural balance of flow and sediment, and thus the behavior is unstable. The problems of lateral erosion, loss of flood capacity, risk of avulsion are real, and what are some of the ways that we might be able to approach this? Well, actually, in-stream mining does provide some relief. One way to control erosion is to take down the gravel bars, reduce their height to the former alternate bar height. In doing this, the hydraulic forces diminish greatly along the outer bank, and an overflow relief is provided. This diagram shows a grading plan for the bar just upstream of the Geyserville Bridge, also with an extended off-channel wetland area that can be created by lowering the land surface to the water. This done on many bars in the Sire Reach will help reduce erosion and loss of land. Another solution for bank protection is to install bioengineered bank protection structures. These include hard elements like rock and logs, backfilled with soil and vegetation plantings. The vegetation plantings provide root strength in the banks and also habitat value. The irregular shape of the bank increases habitat diversity by improving the hydraulic diversity of the bank so that fish can find various cover areas to feed and to hold. This is a great solution for the Russian River. This is an example of a riprap bank. It's not exactly as designed for bioengineered structure, but it does show that willows can grow through dense rock. If a little bit of mindful design is used, and a little less rock, and at a lower elevation, these structures could be dramatically improved and perform the same erosion control function. With the Alexander Valley rapidly eroding, a combination of sediment removal by bar skimming and installation of these structures should help alleviate a lot of erosion. This is another example of bank protection. It also shows the use of gabions and which are rock-filled baskets, and fabric and vegetation plantings. You can see the vegetation plantings are kind of collected around the soil between the cages. Gabions are not really recommended most of the time. They can be used buried into structures, but still the point is that willows can thrive in a structure that's fairly hard, and with a little mindful use of bioengineering, we can improve these structures greatly. Another interesting part of the Russian River history in the Alexander Valley is the history of the Geyserville Bridge. Here's a photograph looking at the bridge southwest direction from the east bank, showing the bridge structure and the piers supporting it that are on the riverbed. These piers are sunk deep with pilings. This bridge lasted until 2005, and dramatic changes demonstrate some of the issues associated with their channel filling with sediment and bank erosion.